Hi, so welcome to my channel. Today I'm gonna be adding a theory for Deco's 27 monitoring and the best friend remix. I think they're essentially the same thing. So, what I've seen on the internet is that they say that the best friend remix is from MIKU's perspective, or is the wholesome version and they're best friends. I don't think they are correct. Now, I think it's be I think it's more the case that it is a parasocial behavior coping mechanism. So parasocial behavior here, so you probably know this already, it's all often talked about in the internet. Fans and you have celebrities. Yeah, but I think this happens is because the person in the music video is lacking social interaction. We'll have to know the context in Japan. Why is he lacking social interaction? So I'm assuming he. So, and hikikomori is a well-known social interaction in Japan in which people often isolate themselves. Uh, could be personal, family, or social interactions that make them traumatized. In this case, we know that in the lyrics that the person being talked about has a secret that got exposed. So in the in the first version, the monitoring is implied that it's masturbating, but I don't think that's the correct term because on the second verse it talks about another thing. So that's probably not it. And also we have in the best friend version the same thing but rephrased to be sounding nicer. So let's go to the monitoring here. So on verse 1 it kind of implies that it's masturbating, and then because of these moans it's implied, but I don't think it is, because as you can see on the next sub verse you have the soft sound depressed solitary karaoke lamenting in the night, and then we're all the crying is crying is the factor here that you can see, right? So as the person here is crying, but why? Because of the secret, right? The secret's out anyway. The secret is out. On the best friend version it's also the same. Secret's out anyway. Yeah. So we see that they are sad, and then they have a secret that got out, and that's why they become hikikomori. So yeah, this is the first thing that we'll be establishing. So, but why monitoring? The title implies something, right? It's actually because monitoring actually says about the social welfare check that Miku is doing. So in Japan, hikikomoris and a lot of old people die a lonely death, which is called kodokushi. I won't really go to the specifics of this. You can search it. It's really gruesome. But we have an image right here. Here's a Wikipedia link if you want to do a read. So monitoring here implies that it is a social welfare check, and that is the reason. Now the core tension is that chronic loneliness and chronic loneliness, which hikikomoris often do, often leads to the increased rate of parasocial behavior. So, although there is actually some research that shows that chronic loneliness decreases romantic parasocial behavior on men, but we'll hand wave that because Deco 27 often uses a social commentary on their music video. So now, why do I call it the same thing? I call it the same thing because it's essentially the same package, just repackaged in a nicer version in the best friend remix. So here's the example here. Uh, we'll set up the truth first. The truth is, there is a MIKU, there's a real MIKU, and then there's the delusion MIKU, right? So did you know in monitoring, MIKU carried a plastic bag around the 214 mark? Yeah, right here. We can go to the video and look for this around 15. Oh wait, this is the best friend version. 214 right here. Oh, this is 210. Yep. So as you can see, there's a bag, right? The thing is, this exists in the best friend remix. Yeah, and it's much more damning because it's literally just MIKU walking down the hallway. So the timestamp is 2:37. Let's go to 2:37. Yep, you see it already, right here. Yeah, you see the plastic bag MIKU is holding, and you see the disinterested look of MIKU with the handbag. So this proves the fact that MIKU probably lives in that block. But we have here some core tensions that we need to think about, because what about those scenes where MIKU was just sitting around? What are those? Well, those are wellness checks, and to prove that, we need to know first what is the delusion of MIKU for that person. So here the core theme is the wellness check, and the monitoring version assumes that MIKU is the crazed up pianer type, while the best friend version is the best friend type. So if we analyze the MV, if we analyze the music video, a lot of the scenes here, you will notice this exists in the next version, which is the best friend remix. Let me find another example here. Yeah, but this thing appears in the best friend remix, right? We can go look here. Yes, you can see it also exists here. Yeah, so that is the truth, because that we can see that it is often repeated. It's just that the tone is different. And we can actually notice that MIKU, the real MIKU, is just looking disinterested, indifferent. Yeah, so the same images 4 or 5 times appears in both versions. So that's probably, we can say that that is the truth. However, the delusion MIKU has a different look, a really different look. So we know in the monitoring, this is the delusional MIKU, a very grinning type. But in best friend remix version, it's much more subtle. It's still kind of grinning. So yeah, right here, still grinning, but it's much more hidden. Let's go back. So as you can see here, but here's the funny thing, there are cracks in the delusion. So if we go into the 240, the best friend version, the best friend remix version, at 240 you can actually see the delusion and then the real MIKU mixing up. So let me just go to that 240. Yep, there you go. As you can see, let's move frame by frame. So as you can see right there, the delusion and then the actual Miku is mixing up together. They're not coherent with each other. So the delusion Miku appears in the even frames, while the real Miku appears in odd frames, which is the 1 and 3. You can see that in the video if you rewind again. So this person is basically getting mixed up who's the real Miku and then who's the delusion one, very very slowly. Actually, if we then analyze the lyrics, we also see that the delusion is still the same, but it's much more hidden, and it's also much more wholesome. So as you can see here, if we check the chorus, what changes here is this: you have the shake shake, it becomes best friend, and then please say yes. It's still the same quote, the same quote. So they're the same. So we can infer that the person talking here is probably the same person in the monitoring MV, and we also know that that's the person behind the door. So what about those? That leads us actually to the filter personas. The filter personas is basically the persona that the person sees behind the door. So in the best friend version, the best friend remix, that person here actually sees Miku as a best friend because of the wellness checks, while in the monitoring version is more the crazy version, the crazy yandere version. But the actual truth is that Miku is just a wellness check person for that person, a wellness check person for that guy behind the door, because as again previously said, a hikikomori and the increased social isolation. And if we actually look at the MV, almost nothing has changed at all. One of the biggest examples here is the sunflower here. So the thing is, the monitoring version is the much more stronger hallucination version of Miku, while the best friend remix version is still much more grounded in reality, because most of the scenes are still based upon the 4 to 5 images of Miku that is consistent between both videos. So as you can see here on that scene with the sunflower, it's also in the monitoring version. We can actually show that right here. Let me just, yep, it's, as you can see, 235. We move here into 235, should be around here. Oh my god, where the hell is it? How the frick did I lose that? Just find it. Yeah, there we go. We're there. So as you can see, it's still the delusion. It's just that it's much more stronger in the monitoring version. If we actually look at the lyrics while this is playing, it's still the same. It's still mostly the same. It's just that it's much more lighter in the best friend remix version. So as you can see here, in sickness and in health, which is actually a term for a wedding, usually in the wedding context, and here it's just changed to no matter what you're doing. So what basically happens is that the best friend remix version is it's literally just a lighter version of the delusion instead of the crazy version that we see in monitoring. So what does that ending mean? For me, it's actually just a very very simple, but there are multiple interpretations. I don't think they're wrong per se, but the wrongness in the theories that it's Miku is clearly wrong. That's the wrongness that I see. But the interpretations of the ending, they are probably much more nuanced. So here, if we analyze actually the reaction of Miku in monitoring and then the best friend version, let me just put it at the end right here. We see Miku being shocked in this case. It's not smug, so that's probably the real Miku, but it's also shocked. Here, on the best friend remix version, so as you can see, she's just waiting, and then it becomes a delusion. Let me just put it out. So what could those ending imply? So it could imply that best friend remix version is basically before monitoring happened, and the delusion took hold of the person much harder later on. So this is purely speculation. There's not a lot of evidence for it, but it would make sense why later in the monitoring, Miku is literally just shocked. We can also assume that it is in reverse. Miku could have been shocked in the first time, and then when Miku becomes a caretaker, wellness caretaker for a long time, the Miku is just waiting at the door, waiting for the person to open up, and then the delusion sets in. But I don't think that's the case, because the motives for the best friend remix version were much more grounded in the reality of the music video, the consistency of those 4 to 5 images. Those were consistent, and the idealized version of Miku is basically based on those 4 to 5 images of interaction. However, the monitoring version is actually way too delusional to the point that it's not based on anything. If we look at the big picture of the delusion factor, the former interpretation, the big picture there is that the obsession was light, it becomes idealized Miku, and then it becomes an obsession. The delusional factor in the latter interpretation, which is monitoring is first and then the best friend remix is later, it's obsession and it becomes light and becomes idealization. I don't think that's the case, especially in the theories of psychology. I try to read a lot of literature according to that, and most of the time people use social surrogates, which could be an object or it could be a parasocial relationship with a person, to exchange something that was lost in social isolation. So the latter interpretation doesn't make sense that way. So if you want to read more about those theories, you can look for attachment theory in psychology. But whatever the ending was, I think Dago 27 really made a really great music video. That was so nice to analyze because you can see the inconsistencies in both music videos. And I think that's it. Goodbye.